Fatal well. You've heard it a million times before. Ideas are easy. Execution is hard. Execution is incredibly hard. And even if something works well for a while, it might not work sustainably forever. I fail a lot. I'd say my ideas are successful maybe 2/10 times, and that's probably going easy on myself. Keep going. The difference between overall success and failure is usually as simple as not quitting. Most people don't have the stomach for point number one and give up way too quickly. Saying no, especially if you didn't have a particularly good month and it's coming up on the first bill time, it's hard to say no to new income. But if you know it's something you'll hate doing, it could be better in the long run to not take it or else face getting burned out. Work smart and sometimes hard. I would hazard to guess that most of us do this because we hate the limitations and grind of the traditional 9 to 5. Most of us are more likely to be accused of being workaholics rather than being allergic to hard work, but it certainly helps if you enjoy what you do. That said, it can't be cushy all the time. Sometimes you gotta put in a little elbow grease. Start slow. I've helped many clients start their own businesses, and I always try to urge them to pace themselves. They want instant results, and they put the cart before the horse. Especially for online businesses, you don't need a business license, LLC, trademark, lawyer, and an accountant before you've even made your first dollar. Prove that the thing actually works and is making enough money before worrying about all the red tape. Slow down again when things start to go well. Most company owners get overly excited when things start to go well. Start hiring more people, doing whatever they can to pour fuel on the fire, but usually end up suffocating the fire instead. Wait, just wait. Things might plateau or take a dip, and suddenly you're hemorrhaging money. Fancy titles. At a certain stage of growth, egos shift. Money changes people. What was once a customer-centric company that was fun to work and becomes more corporate by the day. Just because that's the way they've always done it, in terms of the structure of DinoCorp of old, that's never a good reason to keep doing it that way. Stay home. If your employees' work can be done remotely, why are you wasting all that money on office space just to stress your workers out with commute and being somewhere they resent being, which studies have shown only make them less productive anyway? Keep it simple. Don't follow trends and sign you or your team up for every new tool or app that comes along just because they're popular. Basecamp, Slack, Signal, HubSpot, Hootsuite, Google Workspace, Zoom, I despise Zoom, etc. More apps doesn't mean more organization. Pick one or two options and use them to their full potential. Keep doors open. While you'll inevitably become too busy to say yes to everything, try to keep doors open for everyone you've already established a beneficial working relationship with. Nothing lasts forever, and that might be the lesson I learned the harshest way of all. More on that below. A personal note that might be helpful to anyone who's struggling. Some years back, around 2015, we sold the company my partner and I built that was paying our salaries. During those years, I closed a lot of doors, especially with clients because I was cushy with my salary and didn't want to spend time on other relationships and hustles I previously built up over the years. I had a really rough few years after we sold and the money ran out where I almost threw in the towel and went back to a traditional 9 to 5 job. I could barely scrape rent together and went without groceries for longer than I'm comfortable admitting. There's no shame in doing what you've got to do to keep food on the table, but the thought of going back was deeply depressing for me. Luckily, I managed to struggle my way through, building up clients again. Thanks for the inputs I've noted. As I'm into SaaS, it will surely help me in my journey. Same here. This is the top one for me. Fail well. I spent a lot of time through my journey working on stuff I thought users wanted, but really I was just building stuff I thought was cool. Like I spent 6 months working on an investment tracking platform, another 6 months on a custom dashboard tool, etc. There were maybe 5 or 6, all in and all failed. But each time I took a few lessons with me to the next project. Fast forward about 4 years, and it's going out so far. I guess that's the failing well. Some do this faster than others, and I think there's no real shortcut. There is a lot of stuff out there that can help though, like Startup School and Idea Hub. I think the main thing is to not get caught up in your own shiny object syndrome and focus on the problem you're solving. The difference between overall success and failure is usually as simple as not quitting. Most people don't have the stomach for point number one and give up way too quickly. Absolutely. This is the difference in many cases. People expect success in 6 months and that would be like winning the lottery. Don't expect results before 2 to 3 years of running this thing. Find a way to survive for a couple of years before giving up on an idea. Either keep working part-time on something else, maybe freelancing, or move to a cheap country if you can. To that list, I would add that 2 things. 1. Don't trust conventional wisdom online about startups and SaaS. Use common sense. Egg. Launch on Product Hunt. This is mostly useful if your customers are not devs or builders. I have 10 free users. You probably don't need a free tier. Free users provide the illusion of growth but are expensive to maintain, support, etc. You're not here to run a popular service, you're here to make money. These are not always correlated. For example, SoundCloud wasn't profitable until 2020, etc. 2. Don't get into a domain you know nothing about. Domain knowledge is the most valuable asset when building a business. Don't build something for restaurants or some other industry if you don't have experience in that industry. Don't trust conventional wisdom online about startups and SaaS. Use common sense. Launch on Product Hunt. This is mostly useful if your customers are not devs or builders. Plus 1. 90% of startup/SaaS advice on the internet is geared towards people building software for devs. I'm trying to build outside of this niche, and it's so hard to find advice for building SaaS outside of dev/marketing/AI/email. Another example is start a waitlist or build the shittiest MVP. This advice is parroted because 90% of devs are trying to build new shit with zero market demand. But if you're building in an existing market, nobody is joining a waitlist or signing up for a half-baked product when they can sign up for an incumbent and immediately have their problem solved. Don't get into a domain you know nothing about. Domain knowledge is the most valuable asset when building a business. Agreed. Like I mentioned above, I'm trying to build outside of the dev niche. But that I recently realized how hard it is to build a SaaS in areas outside of the dev niche, because I don't have much experience or connections outside of this niche. Based on my research, it seems that most people who build SaaS and verticals usually had prior experience in the area they built their SaaS for. I can see why most indie hackers/SaaS devs stick to the dev niche. Free users only have value as / when you sell a project. I have one project with tens of thousands of free users, and we can't even afford to maintain the project. We've tried asking for donations, but unless a project is massive, at least hundreds of thousands, it doesn't really move the needle. Thanks, I will keep going. Since my target is $3 trial on dollar, it won't be as easy as I would like it to be, but this will keep me going.